Am I live? Hello. Welcome, everyone, to the open forum for the MGA Provost Candidate, Dr. Manish Sharma. I'm Patrick Brennan, co-chair of the MGA Provost Search Committee, and my co-chair, Tamitha Lambert, who's off screen, will be fielding your online questions for Dr. Sharma via the chat function of our YouTube live stream. So get those questions coming, please. I'm pleased to introduce Dr. Sharma. He holds a baccalaureate in petroleum engineering from the University of Alabama and a PhD in finance also from the University of Alabama. He has over 20 years of experience in academia. Since 2017, he has served as the Dean of the College of Business at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University worldwide. Please welcome Dr. Manish Sharma.
Thank you, Patrick. I want to start by saying thank you, everyone watching on the streaming, as well as those in the audience. Thank you for being here. I've been here since yesterday afternoon and today, and I've enjoyed every moment of my presence here. Beautiful campus, hospitable people, a great atmosphere. So thank you, everybody, for having me. It's quite an honor to be here. I was asked by the search committee to use this venue to perhaps share my vision for MGA and or what I will bring to the position, the provost position that is. So before I get into that, I think it will be helpful to sort of contextualize who I am and how I think and how I've come to those philosophies in my life, which I'll share with you in just a moment. So a bit of a journey of my life, professional life in that sense. So when I immigrated to this country in '79 to the state of Alabama with my family, and I attended, as Patrick mentioned, University of Alabama, did my undergraduate. So my first difficult lesson was, after finishing my undergraduate, it was in petroleum engineering, and I graduated in the middle of a recession. And needless to say, I didn't have a position that was offered to me. So as sort of a young immigrant, that was pretty devastating to come across. That was my first lesson about the academy in which I've lived throughout my life. The lesson was, the importance of advising, the importance of guidance on parts of universities, a certain study program, whether it's limiting, whether it's expansionary, and whether there could be other opportunities. So petroleum engineering, for example, was quite limiting for me. Had I studied mechanical, there might have been other opportunities. That was a lesson. No regrets, no complaints, just sharing the experience. The second one was, from there I jumped into the PhD program. Why? Because my friends asked me, hey, what are you going to do? I have no clue. I'm so young, still new in the country. So everybody gets a job after a PhD. Really? Oh, that's good. That was important. So I kind of jumped into the PhD program, finished that, and I was appointed as a young assistant professor, but as a graduate faculty. And I taught corporate finance and international finance as my first courses, really my areas of expertise. And when I walked into a graduate class, MBA class, I was, at that time, I was 27, and lots of people in the classroom were quite a bit older than I was and much more experienced about life and business. I wasn't. And that shook me a little bit as well. So I launched myself. There was a gap, definitely. And that was a second lesson, which is when you go through a program, I think we need to be much more careful about that our students have a holistic point of view of what it is they're studying and what would be the expectations of that. That was lacking, but I picked up that lesson. So that launched me in order to close the gap between what I knew theoretically, academically, and what the business world is. So I got into some business practices. I had my own hedge fund. I did some JVs, joint ventures. I served as advisor and consultant to various industries. And there, I learned a lot of skills that I didn't have previously. I learned how to focus better. It was because there's always some disturbance, some noise, and you have to look past that. They can't disturb you. I learned the values of being very distinctive and having a specific value proposition. Because when I was raising money for my hedge fund, the question was, why should we give you the money? And as well as clear communication with the audience. So you should know your audience and communicate effectively. Those lessons and persistence, because I wasn't always successful. I failed more times than I've succeeded. I lost money and I made money. So all of those were lessons, and they've been instrumental. And the last lesson was when my daughter, she started to go to Purdue, and she was plugged into an organic chemistry class in a lecture hall of 500 at West Lafayette, and she was lost. And that was just a shaking experience for me from a father's point of view, even though I've been in academics. And I thought, what are we doing as an academy? You know, student is a number, we don't know them, we don't know who they are, their aspirations, and so on. So those life lessons came together to form my academic philosophy in general. And that remains true no matter the institution, so in general terms. Of course, I'm not going to be able to speak to as specifically about the MGA because I'm yet learning about it, but I'll share some points. So here are the 3 pillars that I believe in academically. A, everything is about students. New programs, existing programs, improving programs. Everything has to be about student experience. We have to keep that in mind. We're here because of them, everybody in this room, myself included, not in spite of them. So their welfare and their trajectory in life is our central focus. So I have that in my mind. Second one is distinction and faculty. Distinction is key, as I mentioned. Lessons from my business life. You can't be just anyone else. There are 5,000 colleges and universities in this country alone. Embry-Riddle is one of them. MGA is another one of them. And UGA is another one of them, and so on. Why you to a student? Why now? We should have ready answers for those, clear answers, clear communication. Faculty, they're the front line to the students. They form the experience, they teach them, they share the knowledge. They have to be supported, they have to be strong, they have to be strengthened, their capabilities built, and because they're the lifeblood. That's how education experience happens. I've been a faculty, as I mentioned, from assistant, associate to full professor. I know what it's like to be a faculty. I know what it's like to go through tenure, promotion. I've given up tenure, earned it again at different institutions, so I know what that is. And so faculty are key to forming academic distinction that I talked about. Third, innovation, risk-taking, and partnership are central. We should realize that the universities, academic institutions exist not in vacuum, they exist in a larger ecosystem of students, faculty, community, businesses, local and otherwise. And we have to be a partner with them. We can't exist in spite of them. We can't be just an island of our own, so partnership is a key. So those are my academic philosophies. I pursued them from the time that I was a department chair to an assistant dean, to a dean, and to a dean again, and to a would-be potentially provost, if I should have the chance and opportunity and the honor. They will continue to be the central pieces of my academic philosophy. Now, with all that said, what can I see? What are some of the things that I think all of this experience that I have accumulated, I've been fortunate, bring to MGA as a whole? Before I mention some of the specifics, I do want to commend everyone within this organization that is MGA, from the president to the past provosts, to the faculty, to the students, to the community. You know, as I was educating myself about MGA as best as I could, I've noticed, I mean, whoever is chosen as the provost is not going to start from zero. There's a lot of fantastic stuff that's already here. You know, you've got the new doctoral degree coming up. You've got I think the designation is called, let's see, the CAE, DCE kind of designation. I was impressed by that. And the reason why is because from the College of Business, our sort of military liaison for Embry-Riddle had actually approached my department chair of management and technology for that very designation in cybersecurity and so on. So that was very impressive. I just couldn't remember the acronyms in the exact order, but I recognized this as soon as I saw that. The ABET accreditation, I saw the nursing program is ranked in U.S. News World Report. It's there, the student count has grown from 2017 to now, 8,000, over 8,000 plus. Lots of great momentum here at this institution. So anyone that inherits this position and has the opportunity to work with all of you is really starting from a good position to do that. So I wanted to recognize that because, as I've said throughout the day, I'm not a white knight, as in the mergers and acquisitions world. And I'm not here to rescue anyone because no one needs rescuing per se. We're just here to build and enhance what we have here. So what can we look forward to if I do have the opportunity to be in this position? I mentioned distinction. Everything starts with a strategic academic approach. That's the approach that I've taken to building distinction. So that's what I'll bring. I've used that approach when I was an assistant dean, then dean at Tiffin, and now at Embry-Riddle. Give you an example of that. Embry-Riddle, although it's a well-known school, it's still, the business school is one of many, as I mentioned, 2,000 plus, in fact. So we wanted to be distinct, so we wanted to be very strategic about what's our place, what's our sandbox. So not only is the aviation the sandbox, in sense, but we thought that we looked at, when I came in there, I studied Embry-Riddle, top to bottom, east to west, north to south. And when I spoke with industry leaders in general, just quizzing them, what would work, how do they see us, would they hire business graduates, why, came to the conclusion that, the biggest strength that we have is I couldn't tell them to the business world that, hey, we're going to be a great leadership school, the likes of Harvard. That wouldn't work. We're not going to be a great marketing school like Northwestern or Indiana. So what could we be, which would be credible to the industry as a whole? We could be a quant school, quant business school, STEM school. So that's where we zeroed in on. We thought there was an opportunity to STEMify their business education. That's what we've done. Every institution has inherent strengths within their community. What specifically those strengths would be here, I don't yet know. But certainly, I believe fundamentally that every institution has it. So building academic distinction and taking a strategic view to academics is something that I've pursued previously, something that I'll bring here. In short, we should be able to tell why MGA, and we should have a very clear answer to the students. Why should you come here? What does an education achievement here mean? What will they take away? What will be some of the key factors that will distinguish us? So that's one that I'll talk about. Online expansion. The trajectory of high school students and graduates it's steady to declining. But there's this new world, online education, which is ubiquitous at this point. And I know MGA Direct has great potential. The university that I come from, I have 8,000 students in my college. And when I came in 4 years ago, it was like about 7,300, and we're 8,000 plus now. I'm not even trying to recruit as a dean. That's not my focus. It's just happening organically. So I think we have to look at our program offerings, and there are tremendous opportunities. So I would look to see what that balance is. Online education, for example. Program innovation and partnerships. We've built lots of partnerships since I've been at Embry-Riddle 4 years, none of which were existing prior. We have partnerships with Turkish Aviation. We have partnerships with IATA. We built partnerships, SAS certificates in our program, SAP, Tableaus, and others that we're pursuing right now. So there is an opportunity to innovate. One of the things that I'm most proud of is we're going to launch August 1, 3 modular degrees in MBA, MS in Engineering Management and Management. They're modular not only in nature, they come with 12 certificates that students can align. They come with a theme, and the theme is high reliability organizations, which is very unique and quite alone in this country. So the 3 degrees will have a common theme. So that's an example of innovation. So there are a number of opportunities, and innovation doesn't just mean embedding things with industry skill, although that's part of it. Innovation doesn't mean offering different venues or different formats. It also means, how we track our students, how we matriculate them, can we graduate them on time, and how we understand our students. So innovation there. Building of strong and inclusive cultures. There's a lot of stuff that you have probably read about me on my CV. I should tell you that none of that would be really possible. That's not one man's doing or woman's doing. No one person can do that. It's a huge organization that's global, and I have to have a team, that's independent of me. So for me, my style is just appoint good, strong, ambitious people in positions, and then let them turn loose. They have great abilities. I'm open to ideas. I listen all the time. I write down notes. I have large college. I have town halls with faculty, with students all the time. So inclusive culture is very important to have a strong organization. What I discovered also is what's important, particularly at a large place and when you come in at a university level, that what builds the energy in an organization is the processes, the transparency of those processes. So if I'm a provost, I'll certainly do an audit of what our processes look like and how clearly they're communicated across the board. That's something that I believe in very strongly. And then essentially, 2 last things, an intense, unrelenting focus on students and student successes, and building the brand of MGA. So as I speak to you today, last week, roughly, 2 weeks ago, the U.S. News World Ranking came out, and one of our undergraduate degrees, BS in ABA, Aviation Business Administration, was ranked number 7, as an example. It was previously unranked. So we made a lot of headway in 4 years, as an example. So whatever one's belief is about ranking, whether it's U.S. News, Wall Street Journal, Financial Times, or whatever, what's important is it gives you something to croak about. And you don't have to talk about yourself when you go to the industry. So that's what I do. So now I have something other than, hey, you should shake my hand, we should go and have a cup of tea or coffee. No, I actually have something more substantial to talk about, that we're doing lots of good work, and here's the proof. I got congratulations from my industry partners on that all the time. So branding is key. So if we do all this work, this is something that I've challenged my supervisors at Embry-Riddle. We can do all this great work, but we also have to find an exit for that, meaning people have to know what it is that we're doing. So as in marketing, it is said, right, it's not only important to have a product, but it's equally important that people know that you have that product before they can purchase it. So for us, all this great work that we might do or are doing and will be doing, that's important because that's the product that we have. But it's equally as important, therefore, to figure out a marketing strategy, a cohesive marketing strategy by which we inform the market, right? Otherwise, nobody will know that you exist. So that's important. All of these things that I mentioned are part of my core philosophy, right? And these are the elements in which I have strong experience in, and I think they will connect with the MGA's needs. The enrollment is growing, that's great. But what's your academic identity? What is it? I think we can work on that. Can we expand online presence? I think we can definitely work on that. Can we look at our graduation rates and say there is an opportunity to grow that? Definitely. That's part of student success. Can we better place our students in the market? And the answer is absolutely. I've looked at the median salaries in certain areas, and I think there is room for improvement. So in a nutshell, I think my experience from my background, both life and otherwise, is that it's important to have distinction because distinction sells. You just can't be anyone else. 2,000 business schools, we couldn't succeed without being distinct. 5,000 universities, we will not maximize our potential unless we zero in on what's unique to us, what's unique about us, and where we can construct our niche. That's important. Industry partnerships, as I mentioned, essential to the cause because they fund it, they can diversify revenue stream, they can help improve curriculum, your courses, internships, student experiences. We've launched, for example, as part of industry partnership. Tomorrow I have a meeting with somebody from IBM, and we're going to do a bit of a recording on. We've launched a series called A Day in the Life. And what that is designed to do is just simply give students a perspective. If you want to be a management consultant, if you want to be a CFO, CEO, CMO, whatever, don't listen to Manish, right? Even if I may know it, I don't want them to listen to me. I want them to listen to the direct India person. This is what I do, this is how I do it, this is my work-life balance, this is what it looks like. I cannot tell you how many times in my career I've run into students who go into a discipline having no clue as to what this discipline is about. They just think this is cool, this is right. And that's fine in some cases. Discovery is great. My daughter, as I mentioned, Purdue, BS, today she's a nurse, she'll be a nurse practitioner soon. And that's a complete switch, in a sense. My son, who did his finance at IU from Kelley School of Business, did well, took his first job with an IP consulting shop in Chicago, hated it, then went into investment banking in Boston, hated that, then went into a startup in San Francisco as a product manager. Initially loved it, but doesn't like it. So it's a discovery process. Part of it is you'll never be able to get it right. But part of it is just basically having said that. Do you know what it is like to get a degree in finance? Do you know what you'll be doing for the next 4 to 5 years? I told him as a finance guy, but I'm a father, right? And who's going to listen to their father in that sense? So I had told him, this is what you're going to be. You're going to be basically a cube person. You're going to be just slugging for the next 4 to 5 years. Be patient, be persistent. And after that, build a network of people. He wants to be a startup. Build a network of people, build a talent team around you. Have an idea, massage it a little bit. When you're ready to jump, jump. And, we'll support you. But, it didn't quite work out that way. So we're trying to change some of the things as to how we communicate. Lastly, because I want to give room for questions quickly, you should know who I am as an individual, as a human being. I'm a relationships-based person. If I should be here, we can all expect to have tea and coffee with each other with our masks off. Hopefully this dreaded thing will be behind us soon enough. So that's number one. Why a relationship? Number one, I like it. Number two, it builds trust. You get to see me as a human, not as a provost, not as Dr. Manish Sharma, not as a dean, not as anything else. Just know who I am. I'm a pretty simple guy. Number two, I'm very purposeful. So I have a purpose in life, which is to have an impact on higher education as a whole. We previously talked about it in the afternoon. I'm driven by that. I'm obsessed by that person. It's a defining thing for me in my life, and it will be on my would-be epithet at some point. So I'm very driven by that. So focused on student success. I think our industry has huge potential, but we have to do it differently. We have to figure out a better model for this. So you can look forward to that. I mean, I'm open, easygoing from that sense. My wife calls it, I'm very, I'm disciplined, all of that. Those are personal traits. I enjoy what I enjoy. I do yoga, I do meditation twice a day. It's essential to my existence. That's how I go sort of inside and kind of tune out the world and kind of re-energize. Those are my peculiarities, if you must. My message, my communication to the faculty, I would hope that you would give me a chance. Faculty, you're important. I've been a faculty. I know what it's like to be every element of the faculty. And what I would just say, you're the front line, know your role, you're important. We couldn't exist without you. And you need to be supported in your goals, ambitions, personal or otherwise. And to the students, if you're in the audience, we're all about you, right? We're about your success. But we ask of you one thing. You need to give us your all. You need to give your best effort in order to, so that you can succeed. And upon your graduation, don't forget me and your faculty. Let's stay in touch. Yeah. That's how we're going to grow this institution. To the staff who are in attendance, I have 2 admin assistants. One is project manager. The other one is a data person for me. I couldn't do 99% of what I've done without their assistance. They keep my life going, literally. So I have 3 women who are controlling my life. My wife at home and the admin assistants here. Yeah, they've controlled every aspect of what I do, from communication to reminders to writing notes to writing even emails sometimes. Emily Baskin is my most trusted advisor in that sense. And I'll just say, Emily, write a note, send it to me, we'll read it together. I don't have time, write something, and then I'll make some changes to it. So when I'm on the run, like today, as an example. So to the staff, thank you. Because without you, no institution can succeed. No, doesn't matter where you are. And lastly, as I go to the question, I just want to end by saying, as your late dean, Dr. Titus once said, give me an opportunity to earn your trust and confidence if I should be chosen. So I think we can do some great things together. So thank you, and I'll take any questions.
Questions? I'll repeat them. Okay, great. Or maybe I can just have you ask it.
The University System of Georgia is has been in the process for a couple of years. Things got a little bit delayed because of the pandemic, but of a restructuring of the core curriculum. And as you think about, you've talked about having, career ready, et cetera, et cetera. If you could design the core curriculum, what do you think is needed? How many hours, different areas, creative writing, American literature, fine arts? What do you think really needs to be in a core curriculum?
I think that's a very, very good question, and I'm not sure that the answer can be that short. So I think it's a deep conversation today. I think it's a reflective conversation. The president and I had dinner last night, and principally what I believe is every student, it doesn't matter whether you're in LA, liberal arts, or in a sort of a career-oriented professional college or school, students need to be problem solver. They need to have that ability. They need to be able to think critically, however we determine that they should do that. They need to be able to adapt to situations because the world changes constantly. And they need to have some skills with which they'll launch themselves into the career. So where the world is today is you have to have some core skill that you can bring to the business initially, or to the workplace initially, and then kind of morph in and surround that skill with the other softer skills, if you will. So as an example, in the College of Business, what we have focused on are 3 skills. Number 1 is analytical skills. Well, we're a business school. The other one is business understanding. So if you're, everybody should understand basically how a business functions. And the third one is a set of 3, critical thinking, collaboration, and communication. So on the communication side, for example, we're working with the College of Arts and Sciences to redesign a communication course, which is in Gen Ed, that fits the need of specifically in business education. So your question is more about the Gen Ed, how many credit hours? For us, it's 36 credit hours, right? What should it be? Should it be less than 36? Should it be more than 36? To me, I really don't want to get caught up in the credit hour definition. What I look for, and what I've pushed for at Embry-Riddle is, what are the competencies that we're looking for from Gen Ed instead of courses? Because we equate all the time, even in professional schools, if you've taken a finance course, you've got finance competency. That may not necessarily be the case. So I think what we have to relook at a curriculum, and I'm not sure how much influence one can have on USG at a statewide system, but I think it should be part of the conversation. Gen Ed is designed to give you a certain sort of competencies. How do we test for them? I can tell you at the institutions that I've been at, typically students pick up Gen Ed or communication skills, writing skills, from the Gen Ed curriculum everywhere. That's not used. I can also tell you that as they move into various colleges, they've been lacking those skills. So however we are doing, and then I've seen the same thing in business, within business programs. They've taken a course X in finance, and they take a senior course, and there's this big gap. So I think it's time to re-examine, to ask the broader questions. What are we doing, and are we doing it the right way? I don't have an answer. I don't have a settled answer. I'm not trying to avoid not giving you an answer. I don't have a fixation on 36 hours or whether it should be 42 hours. In fact, one of the objections that I have broadly in the academy that I had previously asked in the afternoon, why do we settle on 120 credit hours? No one has ever been able to give me that answer other than the accreditation agencies require 120 credit hours for a degree. How do we attach? So what we do is we end up plugging holes. We've got to have 120, we've got 40 holes, 3 credit hours each. We've got to have 40 holes. And then we end up devoting a lot of time into the holes. I think we have to step back and say, what are the competencies that we want MGA students to develop? And then how do we end up developing them? Some necessarily could be from Gen Ed. Some may not be from Gen Ed. But the competencies need to be broader than what they are today in most places, including Embry-Riddle, and I would suspect that's the same here as well. So I'm afraid I'm not trying to avoid giving an answer to that. I don't think I have an answer to that. I think it's a deeper question, and I'm myself struggling with that issue because I have a problem with confining myself into 3 credit hours, 16-week, 15-week semesters, of 36 contact hours within a semester's time. What does that all mean? Because it's not resulting in, ultimately, in the successes that you would see as an arbiter, as an independent arbiter, which is to say, when these students come out, they're really not demonstrating these skills, so what happened? And the question could be asked of me, hey, man, what are you doing? This thing is not coming out that way. So I think we have to take a step back and kind of re-examine in totality how it is that, and I'm not just speaking of MGA or USG system, I'm speaking in general terms. But it's a broader conversation, and I'll just say I don't know how many credit hours it should be. I'm going to focus on, if I have a role to play, I'm going to focus on the competencies, define them explicitly as I mentioned, and then see how they're being produced. Thank you.
Our next question's coming from online.
Dr. Sharma, why did you choose to apply to this position at MGA? What do you think we are doing well operationally? And what do you think we can improve on or change?
Thank you for that question. I'm here because I'm on a journey, as I've shared with many of you previously. I'm on a journey. I've been a dean for some time. And as a dean, when as one gets into a position, certainly I had expectations of what would be a good deanship and when would feel that I have fulfilled my obligations, personal obligations, my own expectations of a deanship. That's the point that I'm at. I mean, I've done pretty much everything that a dean, a reasonably successful dean should do anywhere. I've done that. So I'm ready for the next challenge. The next challenge is the provost position. Because what I've been able to do at the college level, I think can be broadly applied at a higher level, institutional level. So that's why I'm interested in the provost position. Why the MGA? There are certain values that we share. As I mentioned, the first piece, the core piece of my academic philosophy is student centricity. MGA defines that. So I think we share a lot of the core values of MGA are core values of my own and the College of Business. So there is a commonality there. So that's why MGA specifically. What are you guys doing well at MGA? You know, after the transition some 5 odd years ago, I've gone back and looked at the USG system, the funding distribution, the student growth, and I noticed 2017 fall 7,000 students. Today, something like 8,400 students. You know, the enrollment growth is fabulous where others have faltered. So I think your enrollment management, the faculty dedication, you've done a fantastic job of that. No doubt about that. I think the launch of the MGA Direct online program, that initiative, I think it's great. The expansion of your academic programs, it's fantastic. Comprehensive programs, 80+ degrees, many of them just very, very successful degrees. So programs, it's a comprehensive institution anymore, including a doctoral degree coming soon. I do see some challenges, and I think the foremost challenge in my mind is, as a father of 2 kids who have gone through college, you know, I think graduation and a predictable path to graduation in a reasonable time is very important to me personally. You know, and if you look at 150%, I call it a 50% premium graduation rate at MGA. That is quite a bit lower than where the academy is overall. And it doesn't matter whether it's MGA or ERAL, which is where I am. You know, if you can't graduate students in a system, then you can't really objectively call yourself to be completely successful. Because that's our core mission, is to see students from the beginning to the end. So I think that's something that we can do well going over. And I think, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, distinction is very important to me, and partnerships. So I think those 2 elements, I think, have room to grow. Both distinction building, working with the deans, the chairs, the faculty, is to say, you know, what are we good at? What can we be good at? Where can we stand out in the market? I think we can do a better job of that. And I think certainly forming industry, broad industry partnerships. You know, for Embry-Riddle, we were stuck in region. We're not regional anymore, a College of Business. It would bootstrap. You know, I've done a lot of work, and I'm not being effusive or any of this. I'm just saying that the power of vision is strong for anyone. So if you dare to dream, you can accomplish it. You know, challenge yourself, and you can accomplish great things. I didn't think that I would be able to build global partnerships. It was my hope, it was my vision that we could do that, but you know, it's possible. So those are some of the elements that I think we can work on to get better at.
Do we have any questions here? Okay, here's one.
I'm Chip Rogers. I'm in the English department.
Hi, Chip.
I think all of us are heartened to hear you express intense focus on student success. That's what we're here for. We are an open access institution, so I think one of our challenges is having success in the freshman year, the sophomore year. It's really not just, it's the retention to get people into their junior year where they tend to do well in their programs. Do you have ideas or strengths that do you think would help guide us to succeeding with students who are really less prepared?
Yeah, Chip, and I think you know you've asked a remarkable question in that. Let me be a little bit general for about 5 seconds on this. Think about if you're running a business, right? And you think about what I just mentioned to you, that 150% graduation rate in the academy is 62%, right? That means 38% of the students in the academy do not graduate within 6 years. Think about how it would feel if you had a product company and you said roughly 40% of my products don't make it. That is a recipe for failure, right? We would find it completely unacceptable. Yet, in the academy as an industry, you know, we don't pay as close of an attention to it as. So your point is right. My focus on this, and we have similar struggles because we are a veteran, military-heavy student body, and they're deployed from point A to point B, and that impacts our graduation rate. But we've been able to influence that through a couple of mechanisms. We're not clearly, but some of the ideas are. The first and foremost thing that I ask and challenge my team, my chancellor, my provost, and even the president is this: how well do you know your students? Right? And I mean, literally, how well do you know your students? How well do you know Manish? Do you know what background he comes from? Do you know what his academic preparation is? Do you know his financial limitations? Do you know what his interests are? And all of this. And I am a very granular guy when it comes to students. I want to know everything about them. Because if I don't know, then I can't design, I can't presume. What I tell my chancellor is he'll say, let's come up with a strategy. I said, how are you going to come up with a strategy when you don't know your consumer? You don't know who these kids are and what they're looking for. The first step is knowing them very, very closely. So we have to develop an infrastructure, a technology-based infrastructure, where we can, and the admission process as they come in, that we know very much something about them. 2, it's an open admission school. That's fine. That means the intervention that when you're recruiting, that means we have to work more closely with the high schools and where they're coming from, and say, how can we impact the level of education? We've got to figure out how to intervene, before they come here. We have remediation courses, and all of that is great. I mean, lots of schools have them. I mean, that's a strategy. We have to figure out, we have to invest more resources into a bit of a coaching and mentoring, a close mentoring, constant mentoring as students are going through it, and see where they are. If one studies the literature on retention and graduation, the number one bottleneck for students, and this is broadly speaking, is financial challenges. So students tend to drop out, that's there. The other one is academic sort of misfit. Is the student in the right subjects? If a student gets dissuaded in the first course, it's game over, pretty much. So what we tend to do is we tend to make sure that our best faculty are in the first couple of courses, who have the innate ability to build those relationships. So meaning what? From our side, we have to put the best foot forward to the students. They should be energized by what they're seeing and inspired. And thirdly, what I think something that we could do is have a more intrusive advising and coaching sessions with them. I don't know. I know there's a student success office. I went through that today. I don't know exactly what it does, but I think student success and the intervention and the constant communication can always be done better. We have made use of Salesforce, which is an enterprise system that we use. We have launched just now in January. We've beta tested it. The college developed it. We call it a dashboard. It's embedded in our LMS, and for each professor, each class, they can look at Manish, and they have a quick history of Manish. Who's Manish? My age, my study subject that I am. How many years have I been at Embry-Riddle? What's my average course take rate? What's my GPA? And what's my projected graduation date? All of that is designed to do what? Just engender a conversation with students, a more intimate conversation that the faculty can lead. And then we can come up with intervention mechanism. The question that you've asked, just like the gen ed question, that's a mother lode question. That is an open access institution. You're open to everybody. It's a collective effort between the academic affairs, the professors, the student engagement, the advising. I think all of us have to come together a bit more meaningfully and using some of the mechanisms that I mentioned, technology a little bit better, and some of the intervention. I think we have to go back. We're waiting for the students to come to our campus to offer them remediation. Perhaps we should have a pretty good history. We should have a good enough database on the kinds of students, where they're coming from, what schools they're coming from, what their academic preparation is. And I think the time to intervene is there before they come here, because they're eventually going to come here anyway. and then not proceed at the rate that we would want them to. Difficult questions there, but those are the things that I've always found them to work. But again, each institution and each group is somewhat unique, and I've been thinking about that a lot. I would love to look at just the particular kind of data collection exercise that's going on here to better understand our students. So I think it all just, to me, it's how well do you know your students? And that's where I would begin this conversation. Thank you, Chip.
All right, this is going to have to be our last question because we have a little less than 5 minutes left, but it's coming from online.
Please share your views on the importance and priority of international programs and funding international experiences for our students.
So that's a great question. One of the great things about Embry-Riddle is it's so global, and I think the world is obviously global today, and it's important for our students, particularly those who are from within the region who may not have had the opportunity to experience other cultures and open up and learn new things and grow themselves as human beings is quite important. So there are a number of ways in which to proceed with that. We can build academic partnerships with other schools. The study abroad certainly is a great program, great way to do this. But study abroad has its own deficiencies in the way that sometimes they get executed. Because I wouldn't want them to be just basically a tourist visit. I want them to be a meaningful involvement with the cultures. So definitely you would have to, as a provost, as a would-be provost, potential would-be provost, I would certainly look to expand that footprint. But having said that, let's understand something. I don't want to come across as a politician, right, and promise, yeah, we'll do this, we'll do this, we'll do this, we'll do this. We would want to do so many things. Ultimately, what we're going to have to do is we have limited resources and say, we're going to have to prioritize, what is important. Item number one, item number two, what leads best to the agreed upon outcomes. And, that's the retention, persistence, and graduation. But international experiences play a key role. In today's world, I'll say this as a last part of this question to give room for another question if there is any. But in today's world, I used to travel pre-COVID about 100,000 miles a year. But today, obviously, we've all been limited. But technology allows you to do this communication. So I think we don't necessarily have to be there. There's value in being there, smelling the air, eating the food. It's a given. But in absence of that, I think we can build on individual small steps, which is to connect with students from other countries via Zoom, via Team, and begin to build those partnerships and just build those friendships. And I think over time, as we continue to make progress and our financial standing becomes bigger, I think every institution, that is not just MGA, I think every institution would like to have a broader international experience, and I would be no different in that.
I think that's going to have to be it because we're out of time. Thank you, Dr. Sharma, for coming today. Thank you for coming to the live audience, and thank all of you who are live streaming and sending us your questions.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for having me. I'm on to my last one. So have a great afternoon and great weekend.